Anyway, all right. I think that's enough of a preface. People know this is a big deal. Shout out to Skyler. Did a great job in the interview.
Nice work, buddy.
A little bit nervous up top, but he started the nerve. You get over the nerves
question. Quick? I just talked him right through the answer. I was like, oh yeah, this is an interview. I forgot. I'm not supposed to just give you the answer, idiot.
All right. Well, here it is. Skyler chatting with David Lowery, the director of Pete's Dragon.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for having me on this interview.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome. Actually, we met at the Oak Cliff Film Festival at the premiere just a few weeks ago, and so it was a great opportunity. Yeah, we got to chat. It's a funny thing. So my podcast, my co-host and I, David, we met. We have a podcast in a way because of you, because way back at Sundance, what year was it? Was it 2012 when Ain't Them Bodies Saints came out? Or was it
2013.
Okay, 2013. So the two of us, we went out. We were at BYU, students up there together, and we went out for a day, and we managed to get into Ain't the Body Saints playing that night at the what's the theater? It's a small little room, the Sundance little room that they have, and it was just a really cool, intimate experience. And from that, me and him got more and more into movies, and we spun off this little podcast, and been having a lot of fun for a few years now. And so it's great
to hear.
Yeah, it's great to kind of go full circle and get you on the podcast.
Completely.
So, yeah. First off, I just want to emphasize to everyone who's listening that this is a film you need to go see in the theater. Because there's a lot of movies that I enjoy bringing home, watching on the TV, even on the iPad. But it's a different experience. This one, there's something different about it that I kind of want to talk about. Daniel Hart, who did the scoring and also produced the song that I've been listening to nonstop since I got to see it. I get overwhelmed. He created this soundscape, and that's something you did as well with the music and the lack of music at times. But I just feel like this is something you need to see in a theater. What do you think about the theater experience of the film?
That's certainly my hope. My hope with every movie I make is that they will be seen in a theater, but I particularly want people to see this one in the theater because it is such an experience. It was designed to be an experience, an almost physical experience, and I feel like the best way to have that is to see it projected as big as possible, with the sound turned up as loud as possible, and without any of the distractions that normally come about when you're watching a movie at home. So I am very glad that it's only in theaters right now, that it's not day and date, and that audiences will have to go to the cinema to see it and to have this experience. And I think it'll be they'll have a better time because of it. So I encourage everyone to go out and see this on the biggest screen you can find.
Yeah, and if you can go talk to the projectionist before you get there and just say, turn the music volume up to 10, it'll be a worthwhile experience for you. Yeah,
absolutely.
And that Texas Theater, it's an interesting venue. It's huge, but it was still, everyone did a really great job of just being quiet, not moving too much, no wrestling, and it sells it. That's a really interesting point. A24, who's distributing it, correct, they're doing a really great job of getting this across the country. And so a lot of our listeners are in Utah, they're in Idaho, they're in Arizona, and there's places where normally you don't get to see a movie like this until 6 months later. But this is something where you're going to be able to see it soon. And you'll get this opportunity, and definitely go take it.
Yeah, I think by the end of July, it'll be playing all over the country. It's like right now it's New York and LA. Next week, this coming Friday, it'll be in a few more theaters. But by the end of July, it'll be everywhere. And I'm really excited for audiences to just discover it. The fact that it'll be playing in multiplexes and in cities that normally wouldn't show art house movies is really exciting because it is an art house movie, but I also think it's very approachable. And while it may confuse or challenge or provoke or alienate certain people, I think a lot of people will be really excited to have the experience that this movie can provide.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting having this playing right next to Spider-Man or the new, Transformers 5, whatever we have out now. It'll just be an interesting contrast.
I think, I'm looking forward to seeing Spider-Man myself, and I feel like I'm a big fan of balancing, seeing multiple movies in a day and getting a good balance. So this would be the perfect, counterpoint to Spider-Man. So go see Spider-Man and then see this. Or see this. Like, this is a good movie to see at the beginning of the day. Go see this, after you've had your coffee and just kick your day off, and then later that night go see Spider-Man. See this, and then see Spider-Man, and then go see this again. That's the way you should do it.
That's probably the way to do it. It's kind of like when you're eating sushi, you want a little palate cleanser in the middle, so you have a little ginger, that might be Spider-Man, but then you want some different sushi after that. You got a ghost for your... Yeah. So I recently saw a post you made about a film that looks similar to this that you made when you were 7 with some casting from your brothers, it looked like, where your brother was in a sheet, like the really iconic ghost. What kind of films inspired you when you were a 7-year-old filmmaker versus the films that inspire you now?
Well, it's funny because I wasn't really allowed to see that many movies when I was 7. I grew up without a television, and so I didn't have home video at my disposal. But I had seen Star Wars, or all 3. I'd seen all of the Star Wars movies, and that was the reason I wanted to make movies. I had seen 2001. That was the first movie my grandparents ever showed me. I saw that before Star Wars. I'd seen E.T. and Pinocchio in the theaters, and that was about it. I don't think I'd even seen any Indiana Jones movies at that point.
Oh, man.
But I was always going to the the grocery store that my parents would go to had a video section in it, which is just a crazy thing to think about. But there was like a video section, and I would just, while my parents were shopping for groceries, I would just go look at video boxes, and the artwork on them and the photos on the back of the boxes are all emblazoned in my memory and had a tremendous impact on me. And I usually was most fascinated by the horror films. So haunted house movies, horror movies, scary movies in general were fascinating to me long before I ever had a chance to see them for myself. I think my grandfather subscribed to Popular Mechanics, and there was an issue that talked about how they did the visual effects in Poltergeist. And the pictures from Poltergeist absolutely terrified me. I was so freaked out by them, but I couldn't get enough of them. And so when I finally got a chance to make a movie of my own for the first time, when I was 7 years old, with a friend's camcorder, I made a movie called Poltergeist. And it starred my brother wrapped in a bedsheet, although he had a scary mask on in addition to the bedsheet. And it was about him just terrorizing my other brother. And it was probably 2 or 3 minutes long, maybe 4 minutes long. And every single shot, you can hear me yell action in the background. And it is it's very satisfying to me to know that that was my first filmmaking effort. And now here I am still making movies about ghosts haunting houses 30 years later.
Yeah, there's something really poetic about that. It's like nice chiasmus, like things coming back to the start, but not that this is the end. Far from the end. Yeah. That's really cool. I feel like the modern day version of that's a red box, but we don't quite get the artwork exposure you get from the tactile VHS tapes that we had.
Yeah, that's like, I don't really miss the video store experience that much. Like, I don't romanticize it to the degree that some people do, but I do miss that artwork. I do miss those video boxes and the way in which you could just discover a film through, a poster that was incredibly impressionistic and really may not have had that much to do with the movie. Like, a lot of those old horror movie posters had nothing to do with the movie, but the box art sure made you want to rent them.
Oh, for sure. I'm a graphic designer, and I think a big part of what inspired that was getting to go see, like, the really cool covers that they put on the VHS tapes, and, like, there was just something tactile, or, like, on the old DVDs you'd pull out, and there was just cool inside art that you'd get to look through. And now I buy all my movies on iTunes, and it's not quite the same experience.
Yeah, I still try to, I still buy a lot of Criterion Blu-rays, which is sort of the last gasp of the DVD market, I feel, because I still buy a lot of those, and those all have amazing art and the booklets inside. But yeah, I don't know if you know, but we put out a limited edition VHS Pete's Dragon because it was the very first movie that Pete's Dragon was the very first movie Disney ever released on VHS, and I wanted it to also be the very last movie they ever released on VHS. And so getting to do that was really exciting, but I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to come up with specific 80s style VHS box art for it.
Oh, man. You see some of, like, they do those one-off box art projects where it's, like, just really cool stuff you see. And, yeah, I had no idea Pete's Dragon did that with VHS. That's a cool thing I'll have to look out for. Okay, so thank you so much for your time. I wanted to end it with a little game we like to play with our guests, where I know you're not someone who, like, loves to read reviews, but with that in mind, we're going to play a game where you're going to guess whether this critical review I'm going to read is from a ghost story or for the classic film Ghost.
Okay.
Now, very similar movies, so it might be tough. So just one word answer, ghost story or ghost. So the first review, we'll see. It's tough. So here it is. A comedy, romance, supernatural thriller rolled into one. This film is a zippy pastiche that somehow manages to seem fresh, even though it's built entirely out of borrowed parts. What do you think?
I'm going to guess that's Ghost, purely because they use the term zippy.
Yes, you got that one right. Okay. Now this next one, it's going to be tough as well. I loved everything about it, including the scenes I wasn't quite sure how to take.
Oh, that sounds like a ghost story to me.
That's a ghost story. You're right. Now this one's really tough because it's like right down the middle. But it says, starring Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore, and best of all, Whoopi Goldberg, this kitschy supernatural romance was nominated for the Best Picture Oscar, probably because of its commercial popularity.
This feels like a trick question. I mean, I feel like I should withhold from answering because this could be, I don't know. I'm going to say that is a review of a ghost story.
That's a ghost story. You're right. So you got all three. So we'll send you a prize in the mail.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I'm based in downtown Dallas, so it won't take too long to get to you. But once you're back in town. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and doing the interview. Everybody, go see a ghost story as soon as it comes to a theater near you. Use the internet to find them. It's easy to do. Thank you so much, David Lowery.
Thank you. I really appreciate the conversation.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Brave Little Podcast. Hold on to your butts.